But how cool would it be? I was talking to my dad on the phone about it. I was like, how cool would it be if the Diamondbacks won the World Series and then I'm like, they have to do the trophy presentation in the pool. They have to.
Oh yeah,
They have to do it in the
100%.
pool.
Yeah. No, there's no other option.
You have to go up to the pool, sitting there. I want to see goggles on, everything in the pool, celebration in the pool.
Yep.
That would be amazing. Welcome to another episode of The Rotation with Mike and Jon. I'm Jonathan Sawyer. With me and my brother, Mike DeSanto. Mike, it's playoff baseball, and it's been exciting as hell. There's been a lot of changes going on in the playoffs where we're like, God damn, what the hell happened? Two teams we're going to talk about today that we didn't expect to talk about today. How have you been liking the playoff format? How have you been liking playoffs baseball so far?
Well, so like I've said on the rotation, I believe it was last week or the week before, I like the way the MLB does their playoff format. I like the 3 for the wild card, 5 for the DS, and now 7, and then it'll be 7 for the World Series. Right. I've been enjoying it. It's been some really exciting baseball, and despite the fact that we saw some series sweeps, right, which, for good baseball, you wouldn't think a series sweep would be good, but the games themselves were good. Even though we had, the same winner, the games were still competitive. We saw a lot of great offense, good pitching, some surprises, which I'm always in favor of, especially when the Yankees aren't in the playoffs, which seems to be a common theme now. I'm always in favor of some surprises, some surprise guys, some guys you don't expect to step up, and right. I've been really enjoying the play. How about yourself?
Yeah, man, I've been really enjoying it. I mean, I love playoff baseball. I think ultimately they're still not doing a good job in promoting. And what's tough is they're being overshadowed by NFL and college football. But I also think they're doing the wild card and the DS so disservice. Like, they were having games at 3 p.m. and we talked about this over and over again. They're still having these fucking games at 3 p.m. And it's like, dude, come on, why? Why are you doing this? Especially on a Tuesday. Spread these out a little bit. Give the chance for people to go to the games. And I know a lot of people are in true cities. They're not going to go to they go to games. They call off work. But that's not true, though. A lot of the times you're not getting the real fans there, right? You're getting people who can't, the average Joe who can't take off work every time there's a wild card game or whatnot. And I just don't like that factor of it all. It's been exciting. And I've been watching pretty much every game, and especially last night's game when Texas took Houston, which was beautiful for me and for us. So fuck Houston.
The only team. It's the only team I don't want to make it.
I put out a tweet to someone. They were like, Altuve missed second, and I was like, his buzzer didn't go off to touch second.
I didn't see that one, but that's golden. I love that.
He must have not told him to touch second.
Yeah, exactly.
Touch second. Oh shit. But let's just jump right into it. We had the Houston and Minnesota, Baltimore and Texas, LA and Arizona, and Atlanta and Philly. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not so surprised by one series, but I'm surprised by the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
3-0 sweep. Where the fuck did Mookie Betts go? I'm going to pull up this series, but you go with your point, but I'm going to pull up his stats here for a second.
Where did Mookie Betts go? Where did the pitching go? Where did the whole lineup go? What happened? What happened? And also, one thing when I was kind of doing research before this about the Dodgers and what they were doing, why is this a common thing? Why is it that besides 2020, which we all know was, very special circumstances when it came to all sports, let alone the baseball season and kind of where that all fell. Other than 2020, why is it that the Dodgers are a phenomenal regular season team and then lay eggs in the playoffs at some point? Yeah, they've made it to the CS.
It's terrible.
What's happening? On paper, they should be consistently the best team in the major leagues.
Mookie Betts got on base once in the entire series.
You can't
by a walk.
You can't have that happen.
0 hits. They had 1 home run in the entire series. They had one guy, Will Smith, their catcher, who normally is a really good hitter, but
Right.
shouldn't be the top hitter. Had
Right.
5 hits. That's it. That's the top of the guy.
I guess that's positive for Will Smith, but
I mean, yeah, but Freddie Freeman, I mean, he batted 350, but he was I don't understand. No, he batted I'm sorry. Looking at the wrong one. He batted 100. A guy that batted 350 or more in the regular season it went ghost, and it's like, where the hell did all this firepower go? And I shout out to Arizona because they were just
yeah, I mean,
moving right around. I was like, God damn, hats off to you, Arizona. Like, I mean, I was excited. They jumped in the pool after in center field. I was like, yeah, this is nice. That's why they got the pool.
yeah, this is a team that some had finishing last in the West.
I mean, no, we did. We did in
Yeah,
the beginning of the season. We
yeah, it
didn't
was
have them
between them and
finishing first.
Colorado. No,
We
not
said
at
it.
all.
We said they're going to have a top pick, and I was just like, damn. Like,
Yeah, heck,
like the rest of the series kind of played out the way we thought about. Like the Twins and the Astros. Kind of the Twins fought hard in each of the games. The Baltimore just fell right off. I mean,
yeah.
that was what the hell.
Hey, I don't know.
Like, oh my god. I mean, my pick is still in for the World Series with the Rangers, I guess. So I'm still in it. You're done.
Yeah, no, I'm done. Like both my sides went out. So,
But I got assist. Oh, go ahead. Go for it.
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, it in all amongst all the craziness was the Dodgers just absolutely disappeared.
Yeah, that was crazy. And I got to tell you, if I'm not a Yankees fan, I'm jumping on that Phillies bandwagon right now
Right?
because I love that song. Like, what is it, Dance Alone or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah,
I wish we could play it and not get like copyright infringement or whatever. But
yeah.
bro, I've been listening to all that. I was like, I wanted to go to the Xfinity bar, party with the Phillies, man. That shit looked amazing. Like that atmosphere is what I love. If you're not a baseball fan and you watch that series in Philadelphia, that's what makes you fall in love with baseball.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. Like it was just 9 innings of standing, like pretty much standing, cheering, booing. Like I loved it all the way, man. Like you gotta love the Phillies, and I'm hoping for them, pulling for them to win the World Series this year because that city would be electric, and then hopefully it moves over to my birds here, so
Yeah, yeah,
they win the Super Bowl too.
yeah.
But how cool would it be? I was talking to my dad on the phone about it. I
Yeah.
was like, how cool would it be if the Diamondbacks won the World Series, and then I'm like, they have to do the trophy presentation in the pool. They have to.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah,
have to do it in the
100%.
pool.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's no other option.
You have to go up to the pool, sitting there. I want to see like goggles on, everything in the pool, like celebration in the pool.
Yep.
That would be amazing. So I mean, the other series, I mean, we had Baltimore totally. Where'd they go? Did they just show their youth?
I mean, yeah, I think so. That was to me what happened in the sense of like you didn't have as many guys with experience, playoff experience, and they
Mhm.
weren't. It was a team that was built to start getting better, not necessarily do what they did in the regular season, let
Right.
alone beat a Texas Rangers team that's we talked in the offseason, specifically went and got guys and at the trade deadline, Max
Mhm.
Scherzer, who's now on the ALCS roster,
Mhm.
specifically went and got guys that were meant to help them win in the playoffs, not just in the regular season. They were good to win in
Yeah.
the regular season, but these are guys that are expected to step up in the playoffs, and they did. So,
Yeah. I mean, all the games were close. Realistically, I mean, it was. First game was. Let's see. First game or first, I mean, the second game was 3-2. I don't know when the
mhm,
first game was. I think it was Wednesday. No, it's not showing me the first game, but it says Texas led the series 1-0. At this point, it was game two was 3-2, and then they lost 11-8, which is a high scoring game. So,
mhm.
um, really interesting series. I mean, like you said, I think they overachieved this year. The Orioles, I think they really put themselves into a driver's seat for the AL East that the Yankees and the Red Sox do have to worry, and the Blue Jays have to worry
Mhm.
going forward.
Yes.
Um, Good young team. Next year they'll probably have Holiday coming up. They'll have their other young couple guys coming up. So
Mhm.
it should be pretty interesting going into the CS rounds and seeing who they're playing. But as we've mentioned before, we're going to be doing elimination takes. So basically, talking about our teams and the teams that are eliminated in each round, what they can do to move themselves up into the CS and the World Series, and what they need to work on. We'll be doing this. Let us know in the comments. This is brought to you by FansIdea. Mike's wearing that jersey. It's Cinco Squad 10 is the discount code. Go get yourself 10% off. Really awesome jerseys. Really cool merch there. You can put your own logo on it if you want to. Name, anything. If you have a softball team, they're really good for softball teams.
Yeah.
They're really good for anything you really want to do. Company outings, whatever you want. Cinco Squad 10. And then I'm rocking my new ShankIt Golf hat. Go to shankitgolf.com. They have some swaggy ass polos and hats. Really cool. This is a Tiger Woods themed hat. So go to shankitgolf.com and get yourself 15% off with Cinco Squad. That's Cinco Squad. But like I said, we're going into our eliminator pool, like talking about each team. I'm going to throw it over to Mike, and he's got the lovely, lovely Dodgers, and I want to hear what he has to say about them.
Yeah, so like we said, what happened? Yeah. And what keeps happening? I think, for me, that's priority number one for the Dodgers is you got to take a step back and just figure out what the hell has been happening every year that's making you be such a good team and then absolutely fall off. First of all, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman have to hit better. Mm-hmm. And if you need to add, for some reason, need to add supporting bats to them to help them hit better, like to give them a little more like cushion to not have so much pressure, I guess that's what you got to do. But what stood out to me, not only was the bats going silent, but something I think they need to figure out is their pitching staff. Yeah. They got some question marks going on there. The health of Walker Buehler, I think, is one of the biggest questions. And then Julio Urias, who's been one of their better pitchers and one of the better left-handed pitchers in at least the National League, if not the Major League. He's a free agent. So is he coming back? Are you bringing Kershaw back again? It's a lot of top-end pitching staff and bullpen questions. Yeah. I mean, you let go of Kenley Jansen, and you saw that even though Brutzer Gratterall is a good pitcher, you're missing that lockdown closer, it feels like. So I think that's a big question for them, and it's just they're the Dodgers. I mean, you have the foundation well in place to be a good team, conceivably. So take a step back, figure out what's been going wrong, and fix it. I mean, and then that's just what it comes down to.
Look, at the end of the day, I was, going back and forth about this when we talked about the Dodgers. The Dodgers need to get rid of Kershaw. Unfortunately, he's fallen off so badly, and ultimately get rid of Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts is hindered by the World Series title in 2020, but he has done nothing as a Dodgers manager other than get his teams to the top level to be number 1 seed, number 2 seed in the playoffs, and then totally crash when it counts. And I said this I've been saying this every single week. There's 162 games, but there's 16 games or whatever you got to play to win the World Series that you have to win. And you have to play these games as hard as you possibly can. And when you come, and baseball is such a tough sport, and I tell this to people all the time, baseball, you need to, even if you're the last team in, if you're streaking high and you're hitting well, you're pitching well, you're as dangerous as the best team in the playoffs. So they should have taken Kershaw out after his first home run and known he doesn't have it. And this is a consistent thing that they keep saying. And a lot of people probably look at this and say, oh, no, you can't take out a Hall of Famer. Yes, you can, because you know why? He gave up 8 runs or 6 runs in the first inning. He didn't even get 2 outs. He got 1 out in that outing. And I love Kershaw. I think he's a great player, but 6 earned in the first with 1 home run, 1 walk, 6 hits is uncalled for as a Cy Young Hall of Fame type pitcher. And I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. And for Dave Roberts to just continue to leave him out there and let him go, you should have had someone in the pen, because Kershaw has done this before. It's true. So ultimately, this should have been, I get so disgusted, and I'm sorry to take over your Dodgers, but it's frustrating, man. It's like, as a Dodgers fans, you're probably looking at like, I've seen this before. This is the same story over and over again. And if we had Trey Day on here, he would say it because he's a Dodgers fan. He would be like, this is the same story. I think they need to get rid of Dave Roberts. They need to get rid of Kershaw. Got to get Bueller back. Need to sign some pitching. And I think the biggest thing is just getting them, ready to go for the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to put yourself. You got to figure out what's not putting you in a good position to compete in the playoffs and fix it.
Yeah,
because if you don't, you're running. The problem also is the clock's ticking on Freeman and Betts, and when you got to pay Will Smith a lot of money, and Chris Taylor is going to end up probably wanting to be a solid starter somewhere at a position and not the utility guy anymore eventually. So the clock's ticking on your current roster, so you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Roberts, I don't know who you hire otherwise, but that's kind of something maybe we can dive into in the winter as far as like whether they let him go or not, just who the best options are out there. And Kershaw, I agree. We all get told someday that it's time to hang it up. It's time, you're no longer that Hall of Fame Kershaw, and he's not.
Mm-mm.
But I don't see them letting him go. I think it's at this point, it's like, I guess, a respect thing, I guess you could say. But
yeah, but it's a respect thing that, okay, it's time to go type thing.
Speaking of teams that in the National League that shocked us, let us know what happened. What the hell happened to the Braves?
I have no idea. I mean, I've been going for the past 3 days since they got eliminated, honestly, trying to figure out what they could do. And there's not much you can do. They had a stacked lineup. I think their lowest batting average when their starters was like 250, 260. And I don't know. I mean, you fell victim to being the best team in baseball. Now, in the last 2 weeks of baseball, watching the Braves, they really didn't. They were pulling guys and slumping. And I've always been a component to, you got to play your guy. You got to continue to play throughout the rest of the year, because baseball is such a, if you're hot, you're hot. If you're not type of game.
Yeah.
So the Braves just never looked really good. They got beat by the Marlins in one series, got beat in another series, and they just didn't look good going into the playoffs. Then they have a week off, right? No baseball contact, no nothing. And then they come play a hot Phillies team who beat you last year, who was ready to beat you, who has a really good lineup, who underperformed this year, but knows how to play during playoff baseball. So they ran into a buzzsaw with the Phillies. I mean, they got that lineup 1 through 9. It was like almost like the team like transferred from one another. The Phillies got hot, and then the Braves are just sitting there, just like, what do I do? I mean, Spencer Strider got rocked in Game 3, or Game 4. I'm sorry, and it just looked bad. I mean, I don't really know what you can do in the offseason to be better than what this Braves team did this year. I mean, they were the most dominant team in baseball all year long. So, I mean, 104 wins, 58 losses. 104, 58 losses, 52 and 29 at home and away, plus 231 differential. It's not like you can do any better. It's just when you get into what they need to do going into the playoffs is continue to play with that urgency, like you're not going to make it when you know you're in, but you have to continue to keep hot. So that was my biggest thing, is that they just need to keep that consistency that they had throughout the season at the end of the season too, so they can go into the playoffs ready to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's less an organizational problem and more of just when you get back there, because I think they're going to be good enough to get back there. Probably not another 104 win season or whatever, but still, I think they can at least make a wild card next year, if not win that division. They're still going to be one of the better teams in baseball. They should be, at least. So it's when you get there, have a better mentality, be more focused, more foot on the gas, like you've said before to a bunch of teams. Keep your foot on the gas, keep it up, and just keep swinging.
Yeah, teams are ready to take, especially like the Phillies. I mean, like we just mentioned, like that the fan base was igniting that team, and like the team was igniting themselves too. Right. And they have a great lineup, the Phillies. If you look at their lineup 1 through 9, we were surprised at how average they were this year. But I mean, you got Wheeler, you got Nola pitching well, you got the pitchers pitching well. I and some people say, there's too much time in between the wild card and the DS, and I guess so. And then from the end of the season to the DS, there's too much time in between. But I think I mean, I don't know how much more time you need. Like that's the advantage. You get that week off to kind of relax, chill the bones a little bit, get the muscles ready, get the injury, little nicks and whatnot ready to go. So it's almost like, do you not want to be the number one seed in the playoffs? I mean,
Right.
is that not your goal so you can keep hot and keep going? Because I mean, realistically, people, how much time do you want? How much time do you want them to have? Like we just talked about, people bitched and complained that there's too much time there's not enough time in between games, and now there's too much time in
Much time,
between games.
right.
Like they have the wild card right after the season ends on Sunday, on Tuesday, and then
Right.
pretty much it's 3 days. And if they win in 3 days, boom, they're done. And then they have a 2 day gap to go travel or do whatever.
Right.
Then the DS starts. That's normal. So I don't understand what people are saying, that there's too much time for the teams. That's the advantage.
Yeah, well, not to mention, it's not the first time in the season that they've had a week off. They have a week off at the All-Star break. So it's not like it's an unheard of thing for these top teams to have a week off and for these guys to have to jumpstart their game again. So I don't see the problem.
So take me into the AL with the Baltimore Orioles, as we spoke about before we went into our takes.
Yes, my World Series pick from the AL. I really thought they had it in them, but as we said before, the youth showed itself.
Yes.
And I think it was a team that wasn't even meant to do what it did, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
And they overachieved and they got caught by a playoff ready team.
Yeah.
Now you could say again, veteran heavy, designed for the playoffs team. Guys with playoff experience. I mean, I think there's at least 3 or 4 guys on the roster. I could be shortchanging them too, that have World Series rings. Like, these guys know what they're doing. They know what it takes to get through the playoffs. And you got a bunch of young guys, but a bunch of really good young guys. So one of the things I want to say to Baltimore is, don't panic. Don't make any rash decisions that are going to don't upset the apple cart. You have a lot of good young players that you can just keep building upon. That foundation is there. Keep building on them. Priority number 1 for me with Baltimore: decide what you're doing with Cedric Mullins. Are you letting him go or not? Supposedly, last I heard, it's leaning more towards they're going to let him walk. They're not going to want to pay him what he's going to want and probably is worth.
Yeah.
And they have a top prospect, one of their first round picks, I think it was a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, named Heston Kjerstad, who was ready to come up at the end of the year this year, and I think did come up for a little bit, or was at least with the team if he wasn't playing. But log jam in the outfield, there wasn't space for him to get a lot of meaningful games in, but he could replace Mullins in center.
Yeah.
So, but decide early.
Yeah.
Early in winter, decide so that all right, we're pegging, Heston is going to be our starting center fielder, barring something unforeseen.
Yeah.
And then work from there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it's about for me, it's about not panicking, build upon what you've got. Figure out where you've got the holes, figure out what veterans you're going to let go and what young guys you want to come up, and work your roster.
Well, I think the biggest thing with Cedric Mullins is he was 0 for 12 in the series, right?
Right.
And as a guy that's supposed to be a veteran leader on that team and looking for a payday, at the end of the day, you're 29 years old. You're supposed to be a leader. I mean, you're only batted .233 this year with 15 homers and 74 RBIs, right? You're a contact hitter, so you drove in a bunch of runs, but did you really and I always say to you, if it doesn't matter what you do during the regular season. If you don't show up in the playoffs, I don't know what value you have to the team.
Right.
And that's just the truth, right? So, and unfortunately, he may be a good leader on the team, but this young kid in the farm system may be ready to go. And a lot of those young kids are ready to go, and they're just being held back by these veterans that are just taking their spot. And, that's sad, So I think that's one thing. I think they should let him go. 0 for 12. I'm sorry, but that's not good enough for me. And and this is a game. This is a business at the end of the day. You didn't perform to where we expected in the playoffs, and you're supposed to be the veteran. Sorry, that's time to go. And there's a lot of guys in the Baltimore has a lot of draft picks that are just sitting there ready and hungry. So I agree with you. Baltimore, don't get upset, don't get angry. Take your time. You'll be back. I mean, you're gonna be competitive for years to come.
Right.
The AL East is gonna be damn competitive when Boston starts getting their guys, the Yankees start getting their shit together. It's gonna be
Hopefully.
cross our fingers. But yeah, it's definitely concerning. Not concerning, but it's definitely exciting, I should say, moving forward for the Orioles organization.
Yeah, for sure. All right, round us out. Take us to our other AL team, the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, Minnesota overachieved, man. I didn't expect them to get out of the wild card, and they beat that red hot Blue Jays team, who was very dangerous going into that series. That lineup is very scary. That's almost like a Phillies-esque. Now, don't jump down my throat. Phillies-esque.
No,
with the power they have 1 through 9, they have a lot of guys that can pop off at any time and go crazy. So Minnesota, I think their key guys, they need to re-sign Sonny Gray. Never thought I would ever say that as a Yankees fan. But hats off to him for getting his career back on track for him. I'm happy for him. Jorge Polanco, they need to pick up. Jorge was a great addition to the team. Need to keep re-signing these guys because those are guys that helped in the playoffs. The 2 starters for them are, Sonny Gray and I forget the other guy's name, but
Pablo Lopez?
Yes, Pablo Lopez, who is under contract, so he's good for next year. You got guys like Tyler Mahle, Max Kepler. They have a club option at $10 million. You could sign him. Emilio Pagan, who's a relief pitcher I was looking at, he needs to be re-signed. He's an unrestricted free agent. I think that's one guy that needs to get picked up. Just because he was such a strong asset out of the bullpen. Just getting him some more reps in the playoffs. I think this Minnesota team is going to be a threat in the Central for years to come with their youth and their pitching. I don't think there's a team. The White Sox were supposed to be that team, and they're totally falling apart, giving away all their pieces. Cleveland's always right there as a team that, is going to compete. And then we have Kansas City, who doesn't look like they're ever going to compete in the next 10 years. Unfortunately, they win a World Series and until they fall off the planet. I don't understand that. But I see Minnesota and Cleveland being the 2 guys or 2 teams that are going to win that. I think they just need to re-sign their guys. This is a good experience for them to win a series because they've been to the playoffs over the last few years, but have lost to the first round. They lost to the Yankees one time, and then they lost to the Guardians last year. So it's tough for a team to kind of go into playoff and always lose. So this is a good experience for them to win a series, get the atmosphere in Minnesota. Those fans were great. The atmosphere there was amazing. They were hyped. It looked like the Phillies atmosphere, and that's why you love that type of feeling. So I think the guys have the itch of, that's what it feels like to win, and that's what it feels like to go. So they're led by Carlos Correa, which is great. He was very good. He played great throughout the series. Unfortunately, they ran into a better team in Houston, and Houston returned a lot of guys. Got Verlander obviously back, and I think they're just a year away, in my opinion. I think they re-signed some key guys. I said get some stars in there, get a couple 2 free agents that you're not expecting to sign there. I was thinking Cody Bellinger was one of them. If they don't re-sign him in the Cubs, would be a good signing for them, especially. And then Marcus Stroman as well, bringing over for the Cubs. Those are 2 guys I was thinking for this team. That would be perfect.
Fit well.
So, yeah, I think the Twins are just a little bit off. They need a couple more guys that have that firepower. So I'm thinking those 2.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think they're building to a good team. I like what Carlos Correa said about the team. He said this team reminds me a lot of the 2015 Astros. That this close, and 2015 Astros, for better or worse, won a World Series 2 years later.
2 years later, yeah.
So if anybody would know, it would be Carlos Correa, what that team was like and what the atmosphere in the locker room and the group of guys and stuff like that. So if that's what Minnesota has to look forward to, Twins fans should be super excited. One question mark stands out for me though. Byron Buxton. What do you do? He just had a second knee surgery 2 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, he's under contract, so I mean, he's not gonna.
Yeah, he's on a big deal.
So I mean, he's on a, he's still on an under contract. I mean, is he out for the season next year or no?
He says he's aiming to play center field next year. It's less a question of will he play, how much can he play? The fact that his career has been absolutely, it's been so spotty with all the injuries he's had. It's more of a question of, okay, this is the second time he's had this surgery on his knee. Can his knee really hold up? And is he the type of player that can be a DH? Because his whole thing coming up, he's gotten to be a better hitter. Yeah. His whole thing coming up was that he was a fast fielder.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's got a full no trade clause, so he's
locked in.
They're locked in, so they can't move him without his consent. And I'm assuming if they do try to move him, it's to another contender. And I don't think if he goes to another contender, I don't think that's any benefit for the Twins. I think you can stick with him. I think, if he's as good as the contract issued to him is, you give him a chance. You can't fault him for having a knee surgery. That's not under his control, obviously. Maybe better training. I don't know the guy. I don't really know his status, if he's a bigger guy, in shape guy. If you say he's a fast guy, I'm sure he's pretty in shape. So, I think, unfortunately, he had a unfortunate knee injury that put him out. So, if he's having surgery now, they got 7 months to the season. So he should be pretty good by opening day, in my opinion. So I say you maybe DH him if the bat's there. But yeah, I mean, he's locked in. They're not going to trade him. And, he has to release that trade to whoever he wants to go. So he's in the driver's seat at this point. They don't have really they don't have a say where they can ask him, hey, can we trade you? And if he says no, then they're locked into it.
Yeah, that's like an albatross that's kind of hanging on them for continuing to contend is what is Byron Buxton going to be? And if he's going to be what he's unfortunately been injury riddled, it's like, oh man, we could really use that money.
Yeah.
But they're locked. They're locked into it. So
yeah, they're locked into it. They got a lot of free agents they can let go. Obviously, they're losing some big contracts and Joey Gallo, that was $11 million last year that they took on. Tyler Mahle, I think they need to re-sign. He's a starting pitcher, did pretty well. He had a 4 ERA around there, but that
he shouldn't cost too much.
In this baseball era, I was saying, a 4 ERA is actually not that bad.
No, right.
Kenta Maeda, starting pitcher, he's only $3.5 million. They're losing out on next year. Could be a good re-sign for a veteran leader. Dallas Keuchel, he's never been the same since leaving Houston. So there's a lot of guys they can re-sign, but there's a lot of money coming off the books that they can go out and get some good guys. So we'll see what happens next year. I mean, we're dwindling down right now, Mike. Next series is only going to be 2 teams, and after that, it's going to be 1. So the show's going to go quicker and quicker and quicker. But those are our 4 takes. Let us know if that's your team, and let us know what you think of those takes and what you think those teams need to do to get better for next year to get themselves to the SIA Championship Series and eventually the World Series. So, Mike, any final thoughts before going into week number 2 of the playoffs?
Well, game 1 of 3. Game 1 of the ALCS was a good one. I'm expecting that at time of recording tonight, the game 1 of the NLCS will be just as exciting, and I'm excited to see what these teams do. And man, are we actually going to see hopefully Rangers against somebody, but could it be a Rangers Diamondbacks World Series?
That would be very interesting because that'd be something that no one really thought of. I mean, the Rangers, but the Diamondbacks, no.
Diamondbacks not at all.
So we'll see. I mean,
Phillies.
We'll see what happens. Go Phils. I'm rooting for the Phils. I think, as a Birds fan, I'm going to root for our crosstown baseball team, and hopefully they do well. And I think they got the momentum. They're home against the Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks are going to run into the same thing that these other teams are. So Game 2 of the ALCS is tonight as of the recording. So as we release this, it will either be 1-1 or 2-0. So we'll see what happens. But we'll be back here next week talking about our hopefully next picks of the World Series and giving our World Series preview. Make sure you tune into our socials. We'll be dropping a lot of content over the next few days. This is The Rotation with Mike and Jon. We'll see you here next week.